So you mentioned that your father was a guitar player. Now, was he in bands growing up, or did he just kind of do it on his own and show you how to play? How did that kind of come about?
Yes, my dad was he's still to this day one of the best singers I know. Um, he didn't have a band, but he did play with like him and another guy. Like say he was playing acoustic guitar, he had a pianist, right? And he was a working musician performing, the Sunset Strip and restaurants, El Compadre on Sunset, and he would play. Well, he was also a full-time union carpenter, which he would later get me into as well. And like no, anytime he was home, he had the like video recorder on, playing songs, letting me play with the guitar or the piano at home, and big influence on why I'm a musician. I don't think he was a big like it's the reason. I mean, like I asked him to teach me guitar when I was like 8 years old, and he didn't want to. He's like, "You're not gonna be into it. I'm gonna try, and you're like gonna just put it down and forget about it. You need more time," which I think he was right. But then I asked again when I was 13 years old, and then he started showing me my first few chords. And from there, I just I took off with flying colors. Anything I could learn. Pre-YouTube era where you just kind of had to sound it out, because I'm not musically trained either. So it was all like, put your finger here, let's see if this sounds right, or whatever, and whatnot. So yeah, he and my mom, she was a folklorico dancer, and that's how they met. And she sang too. They used to sing together. There's old family videos of them singing at parties and harmonizing beautifully, singing rancheras or boleros or whatever. So all that I just like sucked it in like a sponge, and just grew up with all that music.
That's really cool, man. I could just picture it in my head, like them just jamming out together. And I mean, like when I hear that, it's like, man, that's fucking love. You know what I mean? Like, it's like what other beauty is there? Like your wife is singing with you. Like, that's just fucking beautiful, man. That's awesome. So seeing that as a kid, you're like, hey, this is what I want to do. Is that basically where we're at, obviously, now?
Basically, yes, because I never really stopped. I mean, there's not very many days that go by where I'm not singing or playing my guitar or playing piano or anything, and just creating. So I've always been a very creative spirit, and I owe a lot of that to them. And then a lot to my older sisters, who got me into classic rock, heavy metal, the usual suspects, bands like Led Zeppelin, the Beatles. I remember they went to the Kiss concert when they reunited, and I saw the program that they brought home. I'd never seen anything like it. I was like, what the fuck is this? And I was like, oh man. And it's another big part of my upbringing in music, because like they're about 15 years older than I am, 15, something like that. But yeah, they would drive me around, and blasting all their classic rock, KLOS, Arrow 93.1, and all the classic rock stations. So like anytime those songs come on, I'm constantly reminded of where I came from, and just those drives in the back seat. So yeah, started playing guitar at 13, and it's been ever since then.
Yeah, that classic rock, I love classic rock. I grew up on classic rock. My father was the same thing. Like, he was my dad is like, he's a hippie, bro. Like, he's a big time hippie. My mom is too. Like, they're always playing music at the house. They're always playing classic rock, like Rod Stewart, freaking Led Zeppelin, The Doors, Hendrix. Like, they were always playing that stuff around me. And as a kid, I just would always just kind of trip out, like, wow, like this is really interesting music. And then as a kid, growing up, I was into like the hip hop. I was into like the rap that was coming out. And then one day, just kind of, I seen Rage Against the Machine. That changed my life. This guy I had a friend that I worked with. He had bring a VHS tape that no kids know about. He popped that thing in, and just seeing the hip hop and the rock, it just changed my life. Like, I wanted to be on stage. So for you now, you mentioned that you were in bands before. When did you start doing the band stuff like full time, and how did that start? As far as like, did you maybe put out an ad? Did you have maybe friends in high school that you started doing that with?
For me, I'd say it would have had to start in maybe elementary school. Not so much in getting into the music, but actually meeting the friends that I would actually continue on with and then finally get into music with. I mean, because before we could play, well, first off, this is what happened. I was gonna join the school band in elementary school as a trumpet player, and I got to like the first class or whatever to start learning how to play trumpet, and one of the valves is broken on my trumpeter, and the teacher's like, you gotta have this fixed. I'm like, okay. Like I go home and show my parents, this has to be fixed, it's broken. They weren't having it. Typical like Mexican parents, like, that's all right, you just join the choir or something. So I auditioned for the choir too, and I got in. So I did that. I wish my trumpet worked, because now I'd be tracking my own trumpets and whatever, but that's how the cookie crumbled for me. But yeah, so I have friends in elementary school, and that was around the time where like Rage Against the Machine, Korn, bands like we were already, thanks to my sisters, I was showing my friends Led Zeppelin, Kiss, and the Beatles. And we would pretend to perform in the backyard of like one of my friend's house, and we would just be going crazy, like headbanging and moshing, and it was funny. I could imagine the parents like looking at us in the backyard, like we weren't like playing sports, or we're just just picture like the kids going like to like the radio blasting, and those were good times. But so yeah, I finally started learning guitar at like 13, and I think it took like a good 2 years before I could really be somewhat proficient in like getting a tune out. So I would say like by 15, what is that, like freshman year, I started getting with the high school kids, and we got into backyard wrestling and metal music. So we would like have backyard wrestling events, and sometimes like play like sometimes both at the same time, and it was just crazy. But like K-Rock got me like heavy into like all the stuff that was coming out in the early 2000s, and so like high school bands, backyard shows. I remember doing a recording of our first band, and we recorded it in my bedroom on a computer. One take each song, and that's it. It was ready. And we had a printer, and we printed out like our own CDs. And we literally the next day at school, we were selling them. We were like, just like, who wants to buy some? And like nobody was doing that yet. We were like 15 years old. People were barely learning how to, if they were in band or whatever. But yeah, I think we slanged like $70 worth of CDs in one day, and we sold them out. I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. What else? So yeah, it was a lot of it started in high school.
So the crazy thing about that time with the rock and the metal going on, and I remember, and I'm pretty sure you remember back in that day when, you had to go to the record store and buy the actual CD.
Yes.
You had to like really put your mind and efforts to like, okay, I'm going to buy this record because there's like 3 bangers on this record, and I'm going to spend my hard cold cash to go get this record. And that was my rule. I had a personal rule. Like I had to like go to a friend's house, sit down, listen to the CD. If it had like 3, at least 2, but if it had 3 bangers, I'm going to go, get my money, save up my pesos, and go to the freaking Tower Records and buy this record. But around that time, when you're talking about burning CDs, that was like, my friend had a CD burner. And so when that happened, it like changed my life, because I was hitting up all my friends like, hey, we're going to go have a burn fest at my buddy Jeff's house, and we're going to like get all our records and put them together and make, hey, I want that one, I want that one, I want that one. Yeah. It just changed life. So when you said that you were burning CDs and selling them at the high school, was there like a major buzz after that for you guys? Like, all right, we're going to, because I mean, you're kids, everyone wants to rage, everyone wants to drink. everyone wants to smoke, weed at that time. So were you
Yeah.
guys like the highlights of the high school or what?
For a time, I think we were. Not to toot my own horn or anything, but yeah, I mean, people like that's the thing about music is it unites people. It really you can't unless you're like the ultimate hater, you can't like feel ill will towards somebody like pursuing music. It's like, all right, right on, okay, cool. So yeah, they did. People started saying, let's do backyard shows, and like we start, like I said, we had that backyard wrestling, backyard shows, destroying our friends' parents' backyards, and the grass would turn into dirt, and and yeah, we were on a good one. We would my house was the rehearsal house, so after school every single day, Monday through Friday, we would go to my house after like and write. We would write. That was the thing. Well, we played a lot of covers at first, whatever we were into. But then we're like, let's write our own songs, and because that would make us even cooler. Like everyone else is now. People like other kids are starting to come out like playing, but they're playing covers. So like we're like, let's play originals, and so yeah, we were improving songwriting skills. Then we actually got into like this is now like say like junior year, we were getting into the Inland Empire hardcore scene. So we started getting into like slam dancing and two-stepping or whatever, and just like our musical taste started evolving, and we started getting into like progressive metal, thrash metal, deathcore, whatever. And so, but I was always the singer in the bands, if the song ever calmed down, they would have me like, okay, Adrian, let's have a singing part right here. So, I was always the singer in anything we did, even though we were like doing really heavy music. I was still into like alternative, bands like Incubus, At the Drive-In, eventually Mars Volta. But also, I mean, my taste is like everywhere. Like, I mean, what Chicano isn't. I remember in freshman year, I was really cool with the seniors, like the rockabilly seniors, and they would sneak me out at lunch, and because they had the lunch pass, right? Because they were seniors, they would throw me in the trunk and blast like Richard Blade, Flashback Lunch, having like the Smiths' Big Mouth Strikes Again blasting, and how you're in the trunk and that's where the speakers are, just blasting. It was like, oh shit, this is dope. And then like they would end up taking me to the record store in Uptown Whittier to get, they sell band tees and all the records. It's like, and I bought the Smiths, the singles, and never stopped listening to it to this day. So got into new wave naturally, Depeche Mode. But yeah, high school there was like a huge part of it was like heavy music, but I would never like stray from melodic music, singing music, soul music, and obviously partying with my parents with their parties, Spanish music. Relatives would always want to hear it, like, hey, cántame una de whoever, Jose Alfredo Jimenez or whatever. So yeah, high school was a trip, but it really introduced me to playing live, playing with others, and kind of just honing my craft.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. And that's a good story about the Smiths. Like, so the first time I ever heard the Smiths, I was like, it was a friend of mine. She had like the single CD. Mm-hmm. And I remember I was really into metal, man. I was like, like you said, Korn, The Rage, Soulfly, Cold Chamber, freaking all that stuff, man. And I was just like deep into it, right? At the drive-in,
yeah,
all those bands. And I remember she played it for me, and I'm like, what the hell is this crap? Like, what is this crap? Like, it's just like, I don't know. And like now, like I let it go, and then I listened back to it maybe like years later, and I was like, this shit is so fucking good, man. Like, the way, Morrissey just sings it, and the guitar and the acoustic, the way they mix the acoustic and the electric guitar together,
yeah,
it's like, yeah. Whoa. Like, what do you like about the Smiths? What grabs your attention when you listen to that band?
A man with feelings. which in Latino Hispanic culture is like very, very much hidden. You know, you don't like to show it, but this dude here is like laying it all out on the table. That's first and foremost. And just the music, like it was real instruments. A lot of new wave used, you know, electronic, digital, computers, synthesizers, but they were actually playing, you know, real instruments, which is the second most thing that I really loved about the Smiths. And just, yeah, I loved the way he sang and the way he wrote.
Yeah, just listening to that band over the years, like I just recently bought actually the the vinyl of them. They're so expensive, man. They're like, I went to a record shop and I was like, hey, you guys got any Smiths, by the way? I was like checking out. He's like, okay, you guys got any Smiths? He's like, dude, I don't even want to sell it to you. It's so fucking expensive and like, fuck you. I was like, all right. But yeah, I mean, those records are so classic, like all of them. But I could see that with your music, like, you know, a lot of the stuff you have is really emotional. Like I could, like, it's like when I listen to your stuff, again, it takes me to like another place, and it's like a real dreamy music that you got.
Tell